They can't hold your gaze anymore, not because you're raging, not because you're plotting revenge, but because when their eyes meet yours, they see the one reflection they've been running from. The truth about who they really are. You don't even need to speak. You enter a room and suddenly the air shifts. Conversations stall. They fidget, pretend to scroll their phone, force a fake laugh, or grab a drink they don't even want. Anything to escape the silent weight of your presence. You've done nothing, yet you've done everything, because your calm dignity slices through their disguise more sharply than any accusation ever could. That is the punishment they cannot outrun. Shame. Not the kind you can distract yourself from with noise, money, or excuses, but the kind that creeps back every time they see you like a shadow whispering in the dark. I wronged this person, and I can't erase it. And here's the paradox. Your strength isn't in calling them out or dragging the past into the spotlight. Your strength is in restraint, in standing tall without bitterness, in letting your light do what their conscience cannot silence. That light reveals every shadow they tried to bury, and every truth they prayed would stay hidden. Today, inside Stoic Sage Academy, we're going to break down exactly why shame becomes the most powerful silent punishment, and more importantly, how to alchemize your pain into unshakable Stoic power. So while they remain prisoners of their guilt, you walk free, untouchable, and unstoppable. When someone starts avoiding you after they've wronged you, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking it's about you. Maybe you tell yourself it's your success that threatens them, your presence that intimidates them, or your confidence that makes them uncomfortable. But the truth, my friend, is far simpler and far more devastating. They're not running from you. They're running from themselves. Think about it carefully. If a person truly acted with honor, with integrity, with nothing to hide, why would they need to glance away when you walked into the room? Why would they suddenly pretend to be busy on their phone or strike up a fake conversation just to avoid your eyes? They wouldn't. A clean conscience has no reason to hide. A person at peace with their actions can look anyone in the eye without flinching. But betrayal doesn't work that way. Disrespect doesn't work that way. When someone lies to you, cheats you, or mistreats you, they don't just wound you, they fracture themselves. They create a scar on their own character, and every time they see you, that scar rips open again. You become the living reminder of their lowest moment, the mirror they cannot escape. And this is the irony of shame. It's not the same as guilt. Guilt says, I did something bad. Shame cuts much deeper. Shame whispers, there must be something broken in me. And that's why it's unbearable. That's why they can't stay in the same room with you. Imagine for a moment that you're holding up a mirror, not made of glass, but of truth. When they look at you, they don't just see what they did. They see what that action revealed about them. They're forced to face the most terrifying question of all. If I was capable of doing something this cruel to someone who didn't deserve it, what does that say about me? This is where Stoicism gives you freedom, because you don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to humiliate them. You don't even need to drag the past into the light. Your presence alone does the work. Your calm, your discipline, your refusal to be shaken, that is the punishment. While they stay chained to their shame, you rise above it. While they keep running from themselves, you keep walking forward, untouchable. And that right there is the power of living with integrity. You don't just win in the moment, you win for life. The mirror effect. A Stoic perspective. Picture this. You're at a gathering. Months have passed since you last saw them. You're laughing with friends, speaking your mind, fully yourself. And then, across the room, you notice them. They catch sight of you. For a fraction of a second, they freeze. Something subtle shifts in their expression, a fleeting shadow of discomfort. Then they turn away, pretending to be consumed by a phone, a drink, or some trivial task. They aren't avoiding you because you're dangerous. They're avoiding the emotional collision that would occur the moment they truly see you, because when they look at you, they see the evidence. Evidence that you survived their betrayal. Evidence that you grew stronger while they stayed the same. Evidence that they failed the test of character when it mattered most. Shame is a weight that cannot be shed with time or distraction. Most people convince themselves that avoidance is strength, that they're protecting their peace. But avoidance is never peace. It's a mask. And behind it lies a burden that festers quietly, hidden in the small moments. Late at night, during a long drive, or in the middle of a mundane conversation when a stray thought surfaces. And when they see you, that weight multiplies. Your presence alone triggers their mind to replay the past in high definition, their guilt, their lies, their failures, while you simply breathe and exist. A real-world example, think of the coworker who stole credit for your hard work. At the time, they may have felt justified, even triumphant. But months later, as you rise in your career through skill, discipline, and resilience, while they remain stagnant, they can't meet your eyes. Not because they fear confrontation, but because every success you achieve silently dismantles the false narrative they built, that you weren't capable. Or consider the friend who betrayed your trust, spreading rumors behind your back. They avoid gatherings where they know you'll be, or they leave early the moment you arrive. Why? Because seeing you happy, thriving, and unbothered forces them to confront a truth they've been denying. They tried to harm someone who never deserved it, and their actions reveal a failure in their own character. The power of your presence. This is where your emotional intelligence becomes your armor. You don't need to chase them. You don't need to demand explanations or attempt to correct their perception. You simply live in alignment with your highest values. Your calm, your composure, your refusal to be baited into drama. That is what makes your presence unbearable to them. They expected you to break. They counted on it. And yet you did not. Instead, you became stronger, steadier, and more unshakable. Your existence dismantles the story they tell themselves to sleep at night. They may rationalize your resilience by calling you too sensitive, too dramatic, or difficult. But each time they witness your success, your joy, your unshakable calm, that story cracks. And one day, it may crumble entirely. Why this matters for you, understanding what they are truly running from restores your power. Their distance isn't a reflection of your worth. It's an avoidance of their own reflection. You are not the villain in this story. You are the mirror they cannot face, the standard they failed to meet, the living proof that integrity survives betrayal. The next time someone avoids you, remember, it's not fear of confrontation. It's not indifference. It's fear of exposure. That fear belongs to them, not you. In a world where people will spin stories, rewrite history, and surround themselves with unquestioning allies, one thing remains undeniable: the language of silence. When someone wrongs you and then disappears, it's not a gesture of moving on. It's avoidance. And avoidance is a message in itself. I cannot face you because if I do, I must face the truth about myself. Avoidance is not peace. True peace has nothing to hide. Peace can meet you in the street, shake your hand, and look you dead in the eye. Avoidance? Avoidance crosses the street before you can reach it, hides behind a phone, hides behind busyness. That's not peace. That's fear. The fear that standing in your presence will strip away the lies they tell themselves. The fear that one glance from you will unravel the fragile story they use to justify themselves. And here is the ultimate truth. They will never say it out loud. Their silence is not about avoiding drama. It is about avoiding accountability. The silent apology. Stoic truth in their avoidance. Silence can speak louder than 1,000 words. Think about it. If someone truly believed they were right, if they had confidence in their actions, wouldn't they have no hesitation defending themselves? Wouldn't they look you in the eye, stand firm on what they did, and own their choices? But they don't. They vanish. They retreat. They disappear from places you might be. That is not indifference. That is a silent confession. I know what I did, and I can't face it. Sometimes the apology you've been waiting for won't arrive in words. It will arrive in absence, in the way they avoid you, as if your presence is a spotlight shining directly on every corner of their conscience. A real-life snapshot. Picture this. You walk into a coffee shop, a place you've frequented for years. At a corner table, you see someone who once betrayed you in a way you will never forget. Their eyes meet yours, but instead of greeting you, they fumble with their cup, suddenly remember an urgent appointment, and leave. You exchange no words, but in that moment, you hear everything you need to hear. Their body language screams it. I can't sit here and pretend nothing happened. I can't be around you because you are the living proof of a truth I'm not ready to admit. That exit, that is the confession. That is the apology they lack the courage to voice. Why silence hurts them more than you. At first, their silence might sting. It can feel like indifference, like you never mattered. But as time goes on, you realize something crucial. Silence gnaws at the guilty far more than it ever harms the innocent. Why? Because guilt doesn't rest. It appears in flashes, a song, a scent, a stray comment. And when they think of you, they aren't recalling the polished version of themselves they present to the world. They're recalling the one who failed you. Silence is not absence. It is a burden, a backpack filled with invisible stones, every truth they have avoided, every act of betrayal unacknowledged. And when they see you, that weight presses down harder, multiplying with every reminder of your strength and integrity, your role in their silence. This is where emotional intelligence transforms the game. You don't need to chase them. You don't need to demand closure. You don't need one last confrontation. Every time you live fully, growing, thriving, embodying self-respect and inner peace, you turn their silence into a deafening statement. Your dignity becomes the mirror they cannot bear to look into. Your boundaries become walls they cannot climb. They expected you to fight, to beg, to plead. Instead, you walked away. That very choice, that refusal to lower yourself, is why they cannot face you. The Stoic perspective Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That is exactly what your silence represents. Not weakness, not submission, but discipline, self-mastery, the kind that transforms your absence into a force that holds them accountable, without you uttering a single word. Ironically, they thought that by staying silent, they were protecting themselves from pain. In truth, it is precisely that silence that keeps their pain alive, replaying endlessly in their own minds. There is a reason they cannot bear to be in the same room as you. It is not because you are hostile or dangerous. It is because you have become a mirror, not a reflection hanging on a wall, but a mirror forged from truth. When they see you, they see themselves stripped bare, no excuses, no justifications, no fabricated stories to comfort them. And here is the uncomfortable reality for them. Mirrors do not lie. Why your presence feels like exposure, The human mind is a master storyteller. It is a relentless author, constantly rewriting the narrative of our lives to cast itself in the best possible light. When people do wrong, when they betray, deceive, or hurt, they rarely see themselves as the villain. No, they reinterpret reality. They twist the details. They reshape events in a way that makes them look justified, clever, even righteous. They create a story where they are the hero, the misunderstood, or the innocent bystander. And then there's you. You do not try to correct them. You do not yell, confront, or accuse. You simply exist. Your life, the way you move through it with quiet strength, calm determination, and uncompromising integrity, contradicts every lie they've told themselves. They said you were weak, but now your strength is undeniable. They claimed you overreacted, but your serenity proves them wrong. They assumed you were dependent, lost, fragile, but here you are, thriving without them, building your life with courage and grace. Every victory, every milestone, every quiet moment of growth is like a crack appearing in the false reality they constructed. And each crack widens as your life unfolds, exposing the truth they've tried to hide from themselves. When truth walks into the room, picture this: a gathering, a party, or a meeting. You are relaxed, engaged, smiling, fully present. Across the room, you catch someone's eyes. Maybe it's an ex, a former friend, a colleague who doubted you, or someone who wronged you. For a split second, you see it. The flicker of discomfort, a flash of unease, maybe even shame. It is not because you said a word or tried to hurt them. It is because, in that moment, they are confronted with the undeniable truth. The reality they have been avoiding, denying, and rewriting in their mind. You are the living reflection of the person they once were. The person who acted selfishly, cruelly, or carelessly. And seeing you now thriving and calm shines a light on their moral failure. Standing before you feels like being exposed under a spotlight they never agreed to step into. The mirror. They cannot shatter. Here is the paradox of the mirror effect. It cannot be broken. They can avoid you, hide, distract themselves, or speak ill of you to others. They can rewrite the narrative for anyone willing to listen. But deep down, they know the truth cannot be erased. It is as though every mirror in the world can be shattered. Yet your reflection continues to follow them, constant and unyielding. You are that reflection. You do not chase them. You do not attack. And yet, no matter how far they run, they cannot escape what you represent. Real-life examples: consider an ex who betrayed you. They convinced themselves their actions were justified. Perhaps they even painted themselves as the victim. Initially, they felt righteous, justified. But a year later, they see you smiling, confident, at peace. And suddenly, the story they've been telling themselves no longer holds. There is a sinking feeling in their chest, a moment of recognition they cannot ignore. Or think about a former friend who tried to undermine you, calling you sensitive, weak, or incapable. They laughed at your struggles, assumed you'd fail. Then they see you succeeding in the areas they once mocked. Their entire perception of you, of themselves, of reality is challenged. This is the mirror effect. Silent, undeniable, impossible to argue against. Why it hurts more than confrontation. A verbal confrontation can be dismissed. They can tell themselves they're angry, they're exaggerating. It will pass, but the mirror you embody does not argue. It does not justify. It does not require validation. It simply exists. And because it is silent, it cannot be negotiated with or distorted. It is fact. It is reality. That is why they squirm when you enter a room. There is nothing they can say, no excuse they can make, no lie they can spin that will soften the reflection. It simply shows them what is, without compromise. Your power lies in restraint. Here is the Stoic truth. You do not need to confront them. Life does it for you. All you need to do is continue becoming the best version of yourself, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Your growth is the mirror. Your calm is the mirror. Your refusal to retaliate, your commitment to self-respect, and your pursuit of inner peace. All of these are reflections that cannot be ignored. Each choice you make in alignment with virtue, patience, and wisdom polishes that mirror, making it sharper and more undeniable. Your emotional intelligence becomes armor. You do not need their acknowledgement. You do not need their apologies. Your worth is not contingent on their recognition. The mirror effect is not about punishing them. It is about honoring yourself. And that is where its power comes from. While they wrestle with the reflection, you move freely forward. Guilt versus shame. The invisible weight to understand why they cannot face you. You must distinguish between guilt and shame. Guilt. I did something wrong. Guilt is tied to actions, behavior. It can be resolved. Apologies, repair, responsibility, these can fix it. It is temporary, manageable, survivable. Example. You step on someone's foot by accident. You apologize. The moment passes. That is guilt. Shame. There is something wrong with me. Shame attacks identity, not behavior. It is corrosive, deeply personal, and nearly impossible to erase. It is not resolved with words, logic, or explanation. It is silent, relentless, and haunting. Shame is what drives people to run, distract themselves, lie, or hide. It is why they cannot face the living proof of their failings. You. One encounter with you, calm, confident, and thriving, can trigger the shame they have buried for years. And there is nothing they can do to stop it. Why shame burns longer than guilt? Guilt fades when the wrong is acknowledged and repaired. It has a natural rhythm, a resolution. Once the apology is made or the mistake is corrected, the mind can move forward. But shame is different. It lingers. It does not depend on anyone else. It does not require acknowledgement or forgiveness. It lives quietly, stubbornly, inside a person's self-image. It takes root in their identity and refuses to let go. That is why, when they see you, their stomach drops. It's not just a reminder of what they did. It's a reminder of who they were in the moment they acted wrongly. And the truth they cannot admit, sometimes even to themselves, is that version of themselves was small, weak, dishonorable, unkind. Real-life contrast. Let's make this concrete. Picture a coworker who forgets to forward you an important email. That is guilt. It's a mistake, an error in action. They can fix it. The tension resolves, the lesson is learned, and life moves on. Now imagine that same coworker deliberately sabotages your project to take credit for your work. That is shame. The act was intentional, calculated. It revealed something about their character, a part of themselves they do not want to admit exists. No amount of justification, excuse, or rationalization can erase that. It's there, living inside them, growing heavier with every day they avoid facing it. Why shame traps them? Shame is a demanding, merciless force because it requires self-confrontation. To truly face shame, a person would have to look in the mirror and say, I did something cruel to someone who didn't deserve it. And in that moment, I was not a good person. Most people do not have that courage. The idea is too unbearable, so they avoid. They avoid mirrors, memories, reminders, and above all, you. Anything that reflects their truth becomes a threat. In their minds, avoidance feels like freedom. But in reality, every act of avoidance only tightens the chains of shame. Every time they dodge you, glance away, or change the subject, they reinforce their belief that confronting you would be intolerable. And every avoidance amplifies the shame, making it burn hotter the next time they see you. Your advantage. This is where your inner work gives you the upper hand. You've already faced your pain. You've already healed, grown, and moved forward. You are free. They, on the other hand, are trapped in an emotional holding cell of their own making. They cannot face you because they cannot face themselves. And each time you walk into a room with calm confidence, you turn the key on their cell door. Not to release them, but to remind them the lock is on the inside, and they are its prisoner. Your presence silently broadcasts a truth they cannot bear. The Stoic perspective. From a Stoic viewpoint, guilt can be a teacher. Shame, however, is a prison. Marcus Aurelius might frame it like this: if a wrong can be corrected, correct it. If it cannot, let it teach you. But never let it corrupt your nature. You have chosen the path of growth. You have turned potential pain into progress, setbacks into learning, and betrayal into personal mastery. They, by contrast, have allowed a moment of wrongdoing to become a lifelong sentence. You've created a training ground. They have created a prison. The final truth about shame guilt says, I owe an apology. Shame says, I can't even be near you without crumbling inside. That is why they avoid you. Not because you are dangerous, not because you are vindictive. You are simply the living embodiment of a truth they cannot face. So the next time you see someone glance away, change the subject, or quietly leave the room, do not misinterpret it as strength. It is not power. They are powerless in that moment. It is shame, and it is consuming them far more than you could ever see. When they expect you to break, people who betray, disrespect, or hurt others often rely on a predictable cycle. They strike, and then they wait. They watch for damage. If you collapse, they win. If you lash out, they twist the narrative, and suddenly you are the villain. But when you remain calm, unshaken, and steady, you ruin their expectations. You do not give them the satisfaction of watching you self-destruct. And that disruption, the refusal to react, is more devastating than any confrontation could ever be. Steadfastness is not passivity. Some mistake steadfastness for weakness. They think, if I don't react, I am letting them win. But steadfastness is far from passive. It is active mastery of self. It is the deliberate choice to preserve your energy, protect your dignity, and hold your ground without lowering yourself to their level. It is emotional intelligence in action. Knowing your peace is worth more than proving a point. The silent disarmament, think of it as a tug of war. They pull, expecting resistance. You let go. The rope falls. The game ends. And suddenly they realize they cannot control you. Your emotions, your decisions, and your identity remain untouchable. Real-life example. Imagine a close friend betrays your trust. They expect confrontation, outrage, or endless explanations. Instead, you step back. You focus on your life. You keep building, smiling, achieving, and surrounding yourself with people who value you. Every update, every sign of progress is a quiet statement. You did not break me. Why steadfastness magnifies their shame. The irony is clear. The more grounded and composed you are, the more unstable they feel. Your calm reveals what they never wanted to acknowledge. They underestimated you. They thought their betrayal would define you. Instead, your composure forces them to confront an uncomfortable truth. The only thing they harmed was their own integrity. You remain standing, thriving, moving forward. The Stoic principle at play in Stoicism: you cannot control what others do, but you can always control your response. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. You have revoked their power over you. You have reclaimed your peace." That is the essence of Stoic mastery. Freedom from the chaos of others, control over your own mind, and unwavering inner strength. Steadfastness and self-worth. Steadfastness is rooted in self-worth. It begins with a clear understanding of who you are and what you deserve. You know that no one's cruelty, no matter how sharp or deliberate, can define your value. That is why you don't need revenge to feel whole. You don't need to win an argument to feel justified. Your worth is not negotiable. It is inherent. And that is what makes your presence so intimidating to those who tried to diminish it. They once believed they could control, manipulate, or break you. Now, they are confronted with someone who cannot be shaken by their attempts, a person whose life itself is a testament to resilience. How steadfastness protects your inner peace. When you refuse to be baited, you protect your most valuable asset, your inner peace. You no longer give them free rent in your mind. You stop replaying their words, their actions, and the emotional chaos they tried to create. That quiet stability, the calm composure you carry, is the sharpest contrast to their inner turmoil. While you have moved on and grown, they remain entangled in the emotional mess they created. Every decision they made to harm or diminish you now serves only as a reminder of their failure, amplified by your steadfastness. What they see when they look at you. Every time they see you, two undeniable truths confront them. One, you didn't break. Two, they lost the privilege of standing beside someone who cannot be broken. That reality cuts deeper than any insult, any argument, or any attempt at confrontation. It is why they cannot meet your gaze. It is why they avoid you. It is why their words die in their throat. Your steadfastness communicates a story they cannot rewrite, a story in which their attempts to harm you have failed spectacularly. Steadfastness as your silent weapon. Steadfastness is not about proving them wrong with words. It is about proving them wrong with your life. Through your choices, your growth, and your composure, you demonstrate that they have no control over your path. And in the end, that is the power they never wanted you to have, and that they can never take away. The long shadow of shame time heals many wounds, but shame is not one of them. If left unaddressed, it does not fade. It festers, growing like a slow corrosion, quietly eroding a person's self-image over the years. When someone has wronged you deeply, the shame they carry is not a memory. It is a living presence, following them into every corner of their life. Shame ages poorly. Guilt may mellow if accountability is taken and remorse is genuine. Shame, however, grows heavier with each passing year. Each day they avoid confronting it, each year they refuse to face themselves, is like interest accumulating on an unpaid debt. And the moment they see you, all that weight crashes down at once. Why shame lingers? Shame is tied to identity. It is not simply, I made a mistake. It is, I am, or once was, the kind of person capable of that. They may distract themselves with new jobs, New relationships or hobbies, but these are superficial distractions. Deep down, nothing has changed. When life is quiet, the truth whispers again, relentless and unforgiving. A decade later, imagine 10 years have passed. You have built a life full of meaning, career success, strong relationships, and personal peace. A chance encounter, an airport, a wedding, a random street brings them face to face with you. To you, it is neutral. You feel no anger. You have no need to reopen old wounds. But to them, it is like someone pressed play on a video they have been trying to delete for a decade. The words they said, the betrayals they committed, the way they tried to diminish you, they remember it all. And here you are, living proof that their attempts to define you failed. That reminder can feel heavier than any punishment you could ever deliver. The mind's replay button. The human mind protects self-image by creating justifications for bad behavior. But these defenses are fragile. When they see you thriving, every excuse they built starts to crack. They cannot say, "It wasn't that bad," when you clearly rebuilt your life. They cannot say, "You were too sensitive," when your calm, confidence, and strength now shine as undeniable proof. Your presence triggers their internal replay, this time without a pause button. The physical toll of shame is not just emotional, it is physical. It manifests in tightened shoulders, nervous laughter, darting eyes. It creates stress, insomnia, and long-term health effects when left unresolved. When they hear your name, their body reacts first. A knot in the stomach, a quickened heartbeat, a surge of anxiety. This is not fear of you. It is the weight of carrying something they have never had the courage to confront. Your role in their burden. Here is a crucial truth for your peace of mind. You are not responsible for carrying their shame. You are not obliged to offer closure, explanations, or opportunities to reconcile if they have not earned them. Protecting. Your space and psychological boundaries is not coldness, it is wisdom. Someone who has carried shame for years without addressing it is unlikely to change overnight. Avoidance is temporary. They may avoid the places you frequent. They may silence mutual friends from mentioning your name. They may pretend not to notice you in public, but avoidance does not erase the truth. It is only a temporary reprieve. They cannot escape the reality that somewhere out there, the person they wronged is living with freedom, dignity, and self-respect, while they remain shackled to a version of themselves they despise. Time makes it worse. Paradoxically, time can make shame more oppressive. They might hope that years will dull the memory of what they did, but avoidance sharpens it instead, an ever-growing confirmation of their own weakness. Every year they do not confront the truth is another year proving they lack the courage to face themselves. They are not just ashamed of what happened. They are ashamed that they have been running ever since. The Stoic takeaway. From a Stoic perspective, the weight of shame is a natural consequence of moral failure left unresolved. It is not your job to lessen it. It is not your responsibility to carry it for them. Your duty is to walk forward in truth, self-worth, and inner peace. Each step you take widens the gap between yourself and the version of them that harmed you. Remember this: shame grows on its own, festers on its own. It is self-sustaining, and in the end, it is what keeps them from ever being free, while you live unshackled. Mastery through emotional intelligence. When someone wrongs you, They often expect immediate, explosive emotional reactions. They want to see you lash out, lose your composure, and show that they still have power over your state of mind. But when you master emotional intelligence, that expectation collapses. Your calm, your steadfastness, and your self-respect become armor. Their influence over you evaporates, and you remain untouchable, free, and in control. What emotional intelligence? Really, emotional intelligence is not about suppressing your feelings. It is not about pretending you are unaffected when someone hurts you. True emotional intelligence begins with recognition, seeing your emotions for what they are, understanding their source, and deciding the most effective response, not the most reactive one. When you respond instead of react, you create an invisible psychological boundary that cannot be crossed. No one can manipulate you with provocation, guilt, or drama. Your center, the core of your mind, your peace, your self-worth, is untouchable. Why it disarms them? Think about it. Their strategies thrive on chaos. If they can make you angry, they can label you unstable. If they can make you beg or plead, they can call you needy. If they can provoke retaliation, they can cast themselves as the victim. But when you remain calm, grounded, and clear, you strip them of every card in their deck. You deny them the reaction they rehearsed for. That unpredictability, the refusal to play their game, is more unsettling than any argument or confrontation could ever be. The power of the pause. Emotional intelligence gives you what I call the power of the pause. It is that fleeting moment when a surge of emotion rises, a flash of anger, the urge to defend, to prove, to retaliate, and instead of handing them control, you breathe. You think. You choose your next move with precision, not impulse. This pause is lethal to manipulators. It robs them of predictability. It removes their ability to control the narrative, to steer you into their chaos. In that moment, you are untouchable, steady, and entirely in control. Real-life example, picture this. A family gathering. Someone who wronged you throws a passive-aggressive comment, hoping to trigger a reaction in front of everyone. The old version of you might have snapped, defending yourself, feeding their narrative. But emotionally intelligent you simply smile, let it pass, and redirect the conversation. Their attempt fails. The awkward silence falls on them, while everyone else sees their pettiness. You remain unshaken. Your self-worth and inner peace shine more brightly than any words could communicate. Emotional intelligence and self-worth. Here's the crucial link most people miss. Self-worth is the foundation of emotional intelligence. When you know your value, you no longer feel the need to prove it in every interaction. You don't take every slight personally. You understand that other people's actions are a reflection of them, not you. This is what the Stoics meant by indifference to the opinions of the unwise. It is not arrogance, it is clarity. It is the ability to see that your worth is not contingent on external validation or temporary conflict. It is inherent, unwavering, and untouchable. The ripple effect on them. When you operate from emotional intelligence, you create a contrast they cannot ignore. They are reactive. You are composed. They are driven by ego. You are guided by principle. They are trapped in the past. You are building the future. Every encounter becomes a mirror of their own instability. And that mirror is more confronting than any direct criticism. It forces them to reckon with themselves without you ever needing to say a word. Emotional intelligence as a long-term strategy. This is not about winning a single interaction. It is about adopting a high-performance mindset for your emotional life. You train yourself to respond in ways that serve your long-term peace, not your short-term ego. When practiced consistently, something remarkable happens. You stop being predictable. You stop being accessible to manipulation. Once they realize they can no longer reach you emotionally, they either adjust their approach or vanish entirely. Either outcome is a victory, because your inner peace remains intact. Inner peace as a fortress. Think of your inner peace like a fortress. Every impulsive reaction to provocation is an open gate, a way in for their influence. Emotional intelligence strengthens the walls. It ensures that only what you allow, thoughtful, intentional, constructive energy, has access to your mind and heart. This is where psychological boundaries come in. Not just conversational limits, but emotional ones. You decide who enters, how close they get, and how much influence they hold over you. The Stoic perspective Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Emotional intelligence is the modern expression of this truth. It is the deliberate choice of strength over spite, clarity over chaos, discipline over drama. You may not control their actions, but you will always control your response. And that is where your real power lies. When they can no longer manipulate your emotions, they have lost their most potent weapon. Every encounter becomes a quiet victory, not because you dominate the moment, but because you never handed them the power to define it. Psychological boundaries. As invisible armor, boundaries are not walls built to keep everyone out. They are gates you control. They determine who enters, how close they get, and how much influence they have over you. When someone has wronged you, these boundaries are your invisible armor. They may see you, they may speak your name, but they cannot touch your peace, your self-worth, or your future. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about controlling yourself. They are declarations of what you will and will not allow into your life. This is where my responsibility ends and yours begins. This is the line I will not let anyone cross. No matter who you face, with these boundaries in place, you are no longer vulnerable to every opinion, mood, or manipulation that comes your way. You are untouchable. You are composed. You are free. Why boundaries make you hard to face? When someone has hurt you, their first instinct is often to reclaim control. They want to slip back into your emotional world and manipulate the space you've worked so hard to protect. They may try guilt, reminding you of what they did for you or how things used to be. They may try charm, appealing to nostalgia, shared history, or fleeting moments of intimacy. They may even promise to do better, hoping to reopen doors that lead to rooms you've already escaped. But when your boundaries are strong, all of these attempts slide off like water against stone. Empty apologies have no pull. Seductive promises have no weight. You are no longer interested in revisiting old pain, and you will not step back into a pattern that only leaves you diminished. And here's the critical part. When your boundaries are unwavering, they start avoiding you. Every failed attempt, To manipulate or provoke reminds them, silently, uncomfortably, that the power they once held over you has vanished. They can no longer enter your world at will, and that realization unsettles them more than any confrontation ever could. The unspoken message. Boundaries. Send a strong boundary communicates without words. I value myself enough to protect my inner life. That message is not just repelling, it's disarming. Toxic people cannot process the reality that their usual tools, guilt, manipulation, control, simply no longer work on you. They are confronted with the fact that they no longer have access to your mind, your emotions, or your energy. Your boundaries are the silent fortress standing between their chaos and your peace. Real-life example. Consider a former friend who betrayed your trust, reaching out as if nothing ever happened. The old version of you might have engaged, asked for explanations, or allowed them to justify themselves. The new you, fortified by psychological boundaries, responds differently. Perhaps you reply briefly, without offering an opening for further conversation. Perhaps you don't respond at all. Either choice sends the same undeniable message. Access is no longer automatic. They cannot step back into your life and expect to manipulate, control, or unsettle you. Boundaries. Protect your inner peace without boundaries. Every opinion, every mood, every action from others can infiltrate your mental space. You risk allowing external chaos to dictate your emotional state. With boundaries, you choose deliberately whose voice matters, whose energy you invite, and which interactions deserve your attention. Boundaries are not about isolation, they are about discernment. They are the practice of knowing what nourishes your mind, what drains your spirit, and what deserves your time and focus. Boundaries preserve your inner calm, your mental clarity, and your long-term emotional stability. They transform your life from a battlefield where others push your buttons into a controlled, intentional space where your energy remains yours alone. Why boundaries strengthen self-worth? Many people with fragile self-esteem believe they must accept any treatment that comes their way. They fear saying no, thinking it will make them unlovable or insufficient. But when you construct and honor your boundaries, you broadcast a profound truth to yourself. I am worth protecting. When you live according to that standard, those who once crossed your line without consequence are automatically locked out. This is not retaliation. It is self-respect. It is the deliberate choice to guard your energy, your dignity, and your well-being. Boundaries are not punishment. They are declarations of your worth, written in action. The ripple effect on those who wronged you. Strong boundaries don't just protect you, they intimidate. Why? Because boundaries reveal growth, self-mastery, and wisdom. They demonstrate that you are no longer the person who could be manipulated, dismissed, or taken for granted. Every interaction becomes a mirror, a reflection of the strength you've built and the limits they can no longer breach. For someone still carrying unresolved shame or regret, that mirror is unbearable. Your presence becomes a living reminder that the access they once had is gone forever. The Stoic perspective. The Stoics understood this instinctively. Even if they didn't use the word boundaries, Epictetus taught, keep your will in harmony with nature. Let others act as they will. It is not within your power to control them, but let nothing in that is harmful to your soul. Boundaries are a modern embodiment of this teaching. You cannot control the actions, words, or emotions of others, but you can control your own mental space. You decide who touches your heart, your mind, and your spirit. That control is freedom. That control is power. Your takeaway boundaries are not walls to isolate yourself. They are declarations of self-respect. They proclaim, I choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, dignity over drama. When you live in alignment with these principles, you don't have to block everyone who has ever hurt you. Most of them will block themselves. Why? Because your strength reflects back to them what they've lost. They cannot manipulate you, control you, or destabilize your life. And that is a quiet, profound victory. A victory that no one can ever take away. The invisible weapons of self-worth and inner peace. When most people think of weapons, they imagine something loud, forceful, something that strikes fear at first glance. Guns, knives, fists, words that cut like steel. Weapons are imagined as tools of immediate power, tools that demand attention. But here's the truth that very few understand. The most disarming, most unstoppable weapons you can ever carry are entirely invisible. They cannot be stolen, they cannot be argued against, and they cannot be faked. They are your self-worth, your inner peace, and the psychological boundaries you build to protect them. Once you wield these weapons, anyone who has ever wronged you feels their sting without you lifting a finger. No confrontation, no drama, no speech. Just the quiet, undeniable power of a life lived with unshakable integrity. Why self-worth changes everything. Self-worth is more than confidence. It's a deep, unwavering recognition of your intrinsic value. It's knowing who you are without needing anyone else to confirm it. It is the understanding that you deserve respect, dignity, and fairness, and that you will not negotiate your value, compromise your standards, or tolerate mistreatment for convenience, approval, or fear. When you truly internalize your self-worth, you stop negotiating with people who mistreat you. You stop trying to justify your boundaries to those incapable of respecting them. You stop chasing closure from those who cannot provide it. You release the need to explain yourself to people who never deserve to be part of your story. You stop performing for approval because your value isn't up for debate. It never was, and it never will be. Here's the shift that rattles them the most. They can no longer define you. Their words, their opinions, their labels, whether it's too much or not enough, bounce harmlessly off your armor. That's terrifying for someone who once held power over your self-image. You have removed the very thing they thrived on. Control, inner peace, the treasure. They can't touch. If self-worth is your shield, inner peace is the treasure they will never reach. Inner peace is the ability to live in the present, anchored in your values, without reacting to the chaos of the past. It's the freedom to say, I am not replaying that betrayal in my mind tonight. I will not spend my energy plotting revenge or proving a point. I choose my present, my growth, and my calm over the drama they expected. This is where the real discomfort sets in for them. They anticipated you would remain restless, bitter, or consumed by resentment. Instead, you are calm. You are content. You are building a life so full of purpose, clarity, and dignity that their presence, absence, or opinions no longer register. The psychological impact on them, your self-worth and inner peace, create a mirror they cannot escape. When they see you thriving, calm, and self-assured, it forces a painful contrast with their own stagnation. You are rising. They remain stuck. You are calm. They are unsettled. You are growing. They are trapped in avoidance. This contrast is not just uncomfortable, it is humiliating. Because, without you ever speaking a word, it proves they did not destroy you. They only revealed the strength you always had. A real-life snapshot. Think about someone who tried to undermine you. Maybe a toxic boss, an ex, or a so-called friend. They believed your confidence would crumble without their approval. They believed they could make you small again. Then one day they see you. You are smiling. You are self-assured. You carry yourself with quiet confidence. You do not gloat. You do not throw their actions in their face. You simply exist, and your very presence is a testimony to your reclamation. That moment hits harder than any argument ever could. It shows without words that their version of the story no longer matters, that the power they thought they had over you was always an illusion. The connection to emotional intelligence. Self-worth and inner peace are rooted in emotional intelligence. You cannot build these qualities if you are constantly chasing validation or reacting impulsively to provocation. Emotional intelligence teaches you to pause before responding. Evaluate whether something deserves your energy. Walk away when it does not. This is why your peace feels untouchable. It is deliberate. It is disciplined. It is your choice who enters your emotional world, and that choice is your power. Spiritual discipline and the power to let go it requires spiritual discipline to release the need to win in the eyes of others. True victory is not proving someone wrong. It is proving to yourself that you can live fully with purpose without their approval or acknowledgement. This is where inner peace becomes a spiritual practice. You stop obsessing over their journey. You stop measuring your worth by their validation. You live fully in alignment with your own values. That alignment, that deliberate focus on your own life, is your greatest protection. Why these weapons are unstoppable? You cannot argue with self-worth. You cannot disrupt inner peace without your consent. And that is why these qualities are terrifying to someone who once tried to control you. They can ignore your success, dismiss your achievements, or criticize from a distance. But they cannot erase the fact that you carry yourself differently now. You are untouchable in ways you were never before. The Stoic perspective. Stoicism teaches that our happiness depends on controlling our mind, not the actions of others. Self-worth is knowing your value regardless of external opinion. Inner peace is living that truth every single day. Together they form invisible armor that is impossible to break. Remember this. When you embody self-worth and inner peace, you do not need to prove anything. Your life itself is living proof, and that is a quiet, enduring victory that rattles anyone who tried to diminish you. The invisible prison. They build for themselves. In the end, those who wronged you are not imprisoned by you. They are trapped by the consequences of their own choices, by the paths they chose to walk, and by the character they failed to build. Their prison has no physical walls, no steel bars, no visible chains, but it is as real and confining as any fortress. This invisible prison is reinforced daily by their pride, their refusal to take responsibility, and the repeated lies they tell themselves to justify their actions. They could step out. They could face the truth, own their mistakes, and offer a genuine apology, but doing so would demand courage, integrity, and self-reflection, qualities they have avoided for years. Instead, they remain trapped in avoidance, silence, and the subtle discomfort of recognizing their own failures. Every glance away, every avoidance of eye contact, every moment they refuse to engage is a confirmation of the truth. You rose, they stayed the same. Your hard-earned freedom, Your freedom is not a stroke of luck. It is the result of deliberate effort, discipline, and resilience. You worked for it, facing the pain head-on, processing it with honesty, and rebuilding yourself stronger than before. You stopped chasing closure from those incapable of giving it, and you stopped allowing their choices to dictate your peace. This is the high-performance mindset in action. Refusing to let the past control your present. Investing in growth that cannot be stolen, borrowed, or diminished by anyone else. Every step forward, every act of self-mastery, and every moment of calm determination is proof that you alone are the architect of your life. Why they will keep their distance, some might mistake their absence for indifference, as if they simply do not care. But this is not indifference, it is avoidance, pure and simple. If they truly felt nothing, they could confront you. They could engage. They could acknowledge your presence without fear. But their absence speaks louder than any words could. It is the reflection of their own inability to face the truth. They cannot bear to witness the person you have become. Every glance away, every silence, every calculated avoidance reinforces the mirror you hold up for them. You are free. They remain trapped. Your life is the message. You do not need to call them out. You do not need cryptic social media posts or subtle hints to prove a point. Your life, your presence, and your unwavering dignity are the message. Every time you walk into a room with calm confidence, every time someone recognizes your growth, every time you carry yourself with self-respect and clarity, you become the reflection they cannot escape. That reflection is too bright, too clear, too unshakable for them to face directly. It illuminates every flaw, every avoidance, every unhealed wound they have been hiding from themselves. Why you don't need revenge. Revenge would mean tying your energy, your focus, and your life to theirs. It would make your journey about them instead of about you. But you have already won the greater, quieter victory. Your peace is your proof that you are untouchable. Your self-worth is your statement to the world that no one can diminish you. Your boundaries are your declaration that you operate beyond their reach. From a Stoic perspective, justice does not always arrive with fanfare or drama. Often it comes quietly, in the natural balance of cause and effect. They planted the seeds of their own shame the moment they acted unjustly. You, on the other hand, planted seeds of growth, discipline, and clarity. And those are the seeds you water and nurture every single day, ensuring that your life remains aligned, unshakable, and free. The final truth: they are trapped, not by anything you did, not by your actions or your choices, but by the person they chose to become. Every glance away, every moment of avoidance, every time they refuse to face the truth of themselves, confirms the reality you already know. You rose, and they stayed the same. Your freedom, your peace, and your self-worth are the result of deliberate choices you made. Their stagnation is the natural consequence of theirs. Your task is simple, yet profound. Keep moving forward with unwavering commitment. Build a life so abundant with self-worth, inner peace, and purpose that the emptiness of their absence does not touch you. Let their silence, their avoidance, and their inability to confront reality remain their burden, not yours. Let your freedom, your clarity, and your growth remain yours alone. You don't need their apology. You don't need revenge. You don't need their validation. Their shame is the justice that life itself delivers. Their avoidance is the proof that they recognize, whether consciously or not, the strength they no longer possess over you. Your victory is living fully, unshaken, untouchable, and aligned with your own highest values. If this message resonates with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Stoic Sage Academy, turn on notifications, and join us for more Stoic truths that transform pain into power, resilience, and lasting freedom. Remember this: your life is your voice, clear, confident, and undeniable. Your peace is your weapon, silent, invisible, and unstoppable. Your freedom is your victory, earned, unshakable, and eternal.